Stop for a moment and imagine this. You're standing at the start of a race, the whistle is about to blow, the track is clear, the crowd is cheering, but you're carrying a backpack filled with bricks. Everyone else runs light and free, but you can barely take a step forward. That's exactly how life feels when we refuse to let go of the past. We don't see it, but each of us is running this race of life while dragging invisible baggage. It could be guilt from mistakes we made years ago, anger toward someone who hurt us, regrets over chances we didn't take, or the constant fear of failing again. These burdens don't exist physically, but mentally they weigh more than any stone. And here's the truth. No matter how fast or talented you are, you will never run your best race until you drop that heavy bag. Think about it. Have you ever gone to bed replaying an old memory, a fight, a betrayal, or a failure, and found yourself exhausted the next morning even though you didn't do anything physical? That's the silent power of emotional baggage. It drains your energy, slows your growth, and steals your happiness. We live in the present, but our hearts and minds are often trapped in yesterday. The problem is, we often mistake holding on for strength. We think, if I remember this pain, I'll protect myself from it happening again. Or, if I hold on to this anger, I'll punish the one who hurt me. But in reality, the only person suffering is us. Carrying bitterness or guilt doesn't punish the past, it only poisons the future. And here's the irony, the people or situations that hurt us often move on with their lives. Meanwhile, we keep replaying the scene like an old movie stuck on repeat, reliving the pain again and again. It's like drinking poison every day and expecting someone else to get sick. What if, instead of gripping so tightly to what's behind us, we loosened our grip? What if we dared to set the burden down and see how light we could feel? The truth is, letting go doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you've lost. It simply means you're choosing freedom over suffering. Imagine for a second that same race again. The whistle blows, but this time you're not carrying the heavy bag. You take off running, your steps are lighter, your breath is easier, your body feels free. That's exactly what happens to your spirit when you stop carrying emotional baggage. You start living, really living, instead of surviving under weight that was never meant to stay with you forever. This is why today's story is so important. It's about learning to release the weight of yesterday so you can finally rise above, run freely, and even fly. And to understand this better, let's step into the story of a young man named Arjun, who carried more than his share of burdens until life taught him the power of letting go. Arjun was the kind of young man everyone believed would achieve something great. He was smart, ambitious, and filled with dreams bigger than the small town where he grew up. But behind his determined eyes, there was a storm no one could see. His heart was heavy, and his soul was tired long before his journey even began. You see, Arjun's life had not been easy. During his college days, he had worked day and night to prepare for his exams, but when the results came, he failed in a subject he thought he had mastered. That single red mark on his report card became a shadow that followed him everywhere. People around him didn't let him forget it either. Relatives made comments, friends teased him, and deep inside, he began to believe he wasn't smart enough. That one failure became a wound he never healed. But life didn't stop there. A few years later, Arjun trusted his closest friend with his savings, money he had worked hard for by doing part-time jobs. He dreamed of investing it to start something small, but that friend betrayed him. Overnight, Arjun lost both his money and his trust in people. The betrayal hurt more than the loss of money because it broke his faith in friendship. And then came love. Arjun fell deeply in love with a girl who promised forever. But forever lasted only a few months before she walked away, leaving Arjun with unanswered questions and a heart heavy with rejection. He told himself he wasn't worthy of love, that maybe he wasn't good enough to be chosen. By the time he was in his 20s, Arjun was walking through life carrying all these weights. The sting of failure, the bitterness of betrayal, and the ache of heartbreak. Whenever he thought of starting something new, a voice inside whispered, "Remember when you failed. Remember how people left you. Remember how you lost everything." His friends noticed the change. He was no longer the cheerful boy who once laughed easily. He hesitated in conversations, avoided opportunities, and carried an invisible sadness wherever he went. On the outside, he looked normal, just another young man trying to build his life. But inside, he was dragging a bag full of stones, regrets, anger, and self-doubt. One evening, frustrated and exhausted, Arjun went to visit an old wise teacher in his village. He didn't even know what he was looking for, maybe advice, maybe peace, maybe just someone who would listen. He poured out his heart, about his failures, his losses, his betrayals, and his broken dreams. The teacher listened silently, then smiled gently. Without saying a word, he filled a glass of water and handed it to Arjun. "Hold this straight in your hand," he said. Arjun was confused but obeyed. A minute passed. "It's easy," Arjun said. 5 minutes later, his hand began to shake. 10 minutes later, his arm ached badly. He wanted to put the glass down. The teacher then spoke. The weight of the glass never changed. What changed is the amount of time you held it. The longer you hold on, the heavier it feels. Pain, regret, and anger work the same way. Hold them too long, and they will crush you. Let them go, and you will be free. Arjun froze. For the first time, he realized the problem wasn't his failures or betrayals, it was his refusal to let them go. That single moment opened his eyes to a truth that would change his life forever. That night, Arjun lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. The words of the old teacher echoed in his mind like a bell: the longer you hold on, the heavier it becomes. Let them go, and you will be free. He thought about the exam failure he had carried for years. The truth was, failing one subject didn't mean he was a failure in life. But because he never released the shame, it became a chain holding him back. He thought about the betrayal of his friend. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it cost him. But every time he replayed that memory, he allowed the betrayal to wound him again and again. And the heartbreak. He realized the girl who left him wasn't a sign that he was unworthy of love, it was just life teaching him that not every person is meant to stay. For the first time in years, Arjun whispered to himself, "Enough. I don't want to carry this anymore." The next morning, he started small. He wrote down every pain, every regret, every bitter memory on pieces of paper. He read them one by one, tears filling his eyes, and then he burned them in a small fire outside his home. As the smoke rose into the sky, Arjun felt something strange, something he hadn't felt in years. Lightness. Relief. A small piece of his heart was free. But letting go wasn't a one-day miracle. The memories came back like uninvited guests. Some mornings, the old voice of doubt returned, whispering, "You're not good enough." On those days, Arjun closed his eyes and remembered the glass of water. He reminded himself, "I can put it down. I don't have to hold it anymore." Slowly, Arjun began to practice forgiveness. Not for others, but for himself. He forgave himself for the mistakes he made. He forgave the friend who betrayed him, not because that friend deserved it, but because Arjun deserved peace. He even forgave life itself for being unfair sometimes. And with every act of forgiveness, he felt lighter. His steps grew firmer, his eyes brighter. People around him noticed the change. They asked, "Arjun, what happened? You seem different." He would smile softly and reply, "I stopped carrying what wasn't mine to carry." One morning, Arjun walked outside at sunrise. He watched the sky turn golden as birds flew freely overhead. Their wings were light, their movements effortless. He thought, birds can fly only because they don't carry weight. Why have I been tying stones to my wings all this time? That moment became his turning point. Inspired, Arjun took the risk he had always been afraid of, starting his own business. This time, he walked in with a clear mind and an open heart. Failures didn't scare him anymore, betrayals didn't haunt him. He knew challenges would come, but he also knew he didn't have to carry the weight of the past while facing them. Arjun's life didn't magically become perfect, but it became real, free, and full of possibility. He was no longer a prisoner of yesterday, he was the author of his tomorrow. Arjun's journey of release was more than just a personal victory, it became a mirror for all of us. Because deep down, we all have our own glass of water. We all carry things far longer than we should. And the question is, how long will we keep holding on before we finally choose to let go? Think about it. How many opportunities have slipped through your hands because fear from a past failure stopped you from trying again? How many friendships or relationships did you avoid because betrayal once left a scar? How many times did you silence your own dreams because a voice inside whispered, "Remember when you failed last time?" Life is not meant to be lived in chains. It is meant to be lived in freedom. Yet, most of us are like birds trying to fly with stones tied to our wings. We wonder why we can't soar, why the sky feels so far away, and why happiness seems just out of reach. The answer is simple: we are carrying too much weight. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It means making peace with it, releasing its control over you, and choosing not to let yesterday's wounds decide today's story. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it unties the knot that keeps you bound to it. Arjun learned this truth the hard way. Once he let go, he discovered a life filled with new energy. His business began to grow, not because challenges disappeared, but because his mind was free to focus on solutions instead of replaying old failures. His relationships improved, because he no longer looked at people through the lens of betrayal. And most importantly, he learned to smile again, not a forced smile, but the kind that comes from a heart at peace. And here's the beautiful part: when you release your burdens, you don't just free yourself, you inspire others. People saw Arjun's transformation and began to reflect on their own lives. They, too, started asking, "What weight am I carrying that I don't need anymore?" His courage created a ripple effect, reminding others that freedom is always a choice. So, ask yourself today, what is in your backpack? What memories, regrets, or disappointments are you dragging with you? Is it time to put them down? Imagine yourself without them, lighter, freer, stronger. Imagine running towards your dreams without chains. Imagine flying without fear. That is the life waiting for you when you let go. Remember this: a bird cannot fly with stones tied to its wings. And you cannot rise to your fullest potential while holding on to things that no longer serve you. The moment you let go, you don't just walk lighter, you soar higher. So, my friend, don't carry the burden any longer. Learn to release, learn to forgive, and give yourself permission to fly. Because you were not born to crawl under the weight of yesterday, you were born to rise above it and touch the sky. And if this story inspired you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more motivational stories that will guide you toward freedom, strength, and growth. Remember, life is short, but your wings are strong. Use them, and fly high. Channel like and subscribe. Crin.